This painting is called Snapshot. These are the first of the small cameras that way back. And this is my grandmother and my brother and myself and my cousin, who is a well-known artist in Phoenix, Arizona. And at that point in time, I was just fascinated by the extreme pride on the face of my grandmother as she sat with her 3 grandchildren. We're sitting on a piano bench, and the car here is not of the, it's a much older car than, it's not a new car, let's put it that way. It's one that my uncle continued to drive until it fell apart. So this painting is one of the larger paintings that I did in this particular show, and it shows the use of color in a broad daylight kind of situation where everything is highlighted and there's a range of lights and darks. When I moved to Indiana in 1959, I was 23 years old, single mom with 2 sons, one in kindergarten, one in 3rd grade. And a cat. Brought a cat with me, not this one. This is the house that I lived in. It was built by a lumberman, and it's well over 100 years old. We lived in the top floor apartment. There are many wonderful memories of my 2 boys who were in kindergarten and 3rd grade at the time, and myself. But back in the back, there's an apartment where Paul Hadley lived, and he was a lovely older gentleman, always wore a white suit, and he was the designer of the Indiana state flag and an artist. So I managed to find an artist to live near, even in Plainfield, which was kind of fun. I had got a job at Public Service Company, and then later I worked at the Plainfield Messenger doing stories and political cartoons and paste up and editing, lots of jobs there. And I began to learn a little bit about the advertising business and the graphic arts business. This one gave me an opportunity to really paint with the charcoals as far as darks and lights are concerned. Since the show was called Kindred Spirits, about children and animals, this fit the subject perfectly. And the use of the charcoal in this one was so, it told the whole story, and I ended up not doing a painting of this subject. So just the charcoal drawing is the documentation of this subject. And then over here we have one that is another acrylic on canvas called Grandmother's Window. And this was, without realizing it, this has all the elements of the Wizard of Oz movie in it. My son pointed that out to me. She's got the red shoes, there's the yellow road, here's a little dog, and there's the emerald door back there. Artists sometimes do things completely unconsciously, and I actually make an effort to keep the unconscious mind open to my working self so that things can float up easily. And so when I did this, I had no recognition of the fact that I was also calling on my wonderful childhood memories of seeing The Wizard of Oz. and my great love for my grandmother. People's faces have always been fascinating to me since I was a little girl. I would sit in my dad's office where people came in from the street quite a bit, and I would look at their faces and try to tell whether they were happy, sad, what their emotional feelings were, and also notice the way they were dressed. To my mind, these people are so Midwestern. We don't know what they're looked, but clearly they're fascinated by it. And again, this is completely done in charcoal, except for the pastel that's used in the background. It's a combination of black and white and color. It was done photographing people at the state fair and then combining the faces that I wanted to use into this drawing.
Every now and then an artist makes a rather abrupt departure in his or her style, and such is the case in Ellie's current show. Ellie, welcome to our couch.
Thank you.
You know, a couple of years ago, one might have described your work as humorous, maybe fairly light, certainly lots of fun. And now we're confronted with some very serious subject matter and some very confrontational images of murderers and other spooky things going on down there. How did you come to make this sort of a change? Is this a natural, gradual evolution, or is this a real departure for you?
I think it's an evolution. It sort of built on my interest in the human face that goes way back when I was that big. I was looking at faces, wondering what people were like from their expressions, and I always drew people. And then about 2 years ago, in Vancouver, British Columbia, I saw an exhibit of Northwest Coast Indian portrait masks. And these are wonderful because the artists, who aren't known, of course, the carvers, captured a real person behind this menacing exterior of these masks that were used in ceremonial kinds of things. Well, those just blew me away. I thought they were wonderful. And then a little later I saw a photograph of Henry Lee Lucas, one of the murderers I did. And something clicked, and I thought, what if you take the human being that's in there and then superimpose the way they've lived their life as like a mask? And that's how I came to doing murderers. And you know, when you do one, then you look for another one.
So you did a whole series.
Yeah.
You know, maybe one of the marks of a serious artist is exploring new directions, breaking some new ground that you haven't traveled before, and then exploring it to a degree before moving on. Is this body of work complete, or do you still have some more of this to get out?
Well, I think you also know that this show is, I'm making a statement about the amount of violence in our society and the way that we've become numbed through a lot of contemporary media presentations of murders, that we really don't protest. We don't put the money where it should be put to keep these kinds of terrible things from happening. But I don't think I'm going to go on with murderers necessarily. I have some other ideas in mind, perhaps equally startling, but everyone can stop sending me photographs of murderers now.